economic crisis is also a time of ideological crisis. It's a time when people start to reevaluate their ideas about the world, questioning some of the most basic assumptions they once had. Every capitalist crisis in history has brought about a rethinking and regrouping of mainstream economic thought. Interestingly, this rethinking has always happened within the context of some sort of radical challenge to the economic order. Marginal utility theory, which still serves the basis of modern mainstream economic theory, emerged from the Great Depression of the late 1800s as an answer to the challenge of Karl Marx's thorough critique of capitalism. Keynesianism emerged from the Great Depression of the 1930s as a response to the failures of liberal economics, the challenge of a successful Bolshevik revolution, and strong worker movements in the Western world. Neoliberalism emerged from the crisis of the 70s, both as a backlash against the failures of Keynesianism to manage crisis, and as an assault against the growth of large popular left movements like the anti-war, student, civil rights, and women's movements, and the power of entrenched labor.
Remember that what an ideology is a conceptual framework with the way people deal with reality. Everyone has one. You have to exist, you need an ideology. The question is whether it is accurate or not. And what I'm saying to you is, yes, I found a flaw. I don't know how significant or permanent it is, but I've been very distressed by that fact.
With such admissions of failure from the neoliberal establishment, we can't help but begin to question the dominant economic ideas of our time. Yet, it is not clear that we are entering this ideological crisis in the context of any viable challenges to the economic order. The failures of centrally planned Soviet-style economies have largely purged the idea of alternatives to capitalism from the popular consciousness. At such a time, it may be useful to re-examine the ideas of Karl Marx to see what exactly he was trying to say in his critique of capitalism. Not because we have some desire to repeat the political experiments of Lenin, Mao, Stalin, or any of the others who claim to embody the ideas of Marx, but because Marx presents a systematic and thorough critique of capital that is wholly different, wholly unique in the history of economic thought. Such radical ideas are crucial in our search for new understanding of our present condition and possibilities for social transformation. A society without the ability to critique itself is a dangerous society to live in, especially as it enters a long period of crisis. There is a crucial difference between all the great bourgeois economists and Marx. They all saw crisis as something that came from outside of capitalism, disturbing the natural equilibrium of the market. Confronted with the reality that capitalism is prone to inequality, exploitation, and crisis, that is, when it becomes apparent that there is a discontinuity between their theories and reality, bourgeois economists always blame reality for not conforming to their models. Reality has been poisoned by invading external forces, they say, in the form of state intervention, labor movements, human greed. We see this same reactionary approach today in rising right-wing populism, which blames the invasive influence of foreigners, left intellectuals, homosexuals, non-Christians, and black presidents for the problems of society. Marx takes the opposite approach. He sees the social antagonisms of capitalism as internal to the system. These social antagonisms are so basic to the system that they drag all other parts of society into their gravitational field. Bourgeois economists have always seen the market as a realm of great freedom and equality. The fact that there is so much inequality, crisis, and unfulfilled freedom in market societies is seen as an imperfection in reality, not their theory. Contrary to what some people think, Marx does not start with an analysis of these social bads and then proceed to a critique of market relations. Marx doesn't begin by talking about monopoly, poverty, exploitation, or state violence. He begins with this same realm of market freedom that his bourgeois critics are so enamored with, and then shows how all of these social antagonisms spring out of this basic productive relation. For Marx, it all starts with the fact that capitalist production is production for market exchange. This basic form of production takes on law-like properties that he calls the law of value. What did Marx find so interesting about capitalist societies? It wasn't just the freedom to buy or sell anything you wanted. It was the fact that in order to participate in the social life of a market society, one has to buy and sell things. In order to survive, in order to participate in society, one has to enter the market to buy things and to sell the products of their own labor. This is a distinctly different organization of society than previous societies, where working people largely supported themselves with their own labor. That is, they labored to make things for their own use. In a capitalist society, people don't make things that have any use for themselves at all. They produce things in order to exchange them. Thus, the coordination of the social labor process happens indirectly through exchange. In a society of private producers, coordinated indirectly through the market, the social relations between these people take the form of relations between things, of commodity relations. The relations between people become value relations expressed in commodity prices. Economically, people can only relate to each other through money prices, through value. This world of commodity relations takes an independent form outside of the control of individuals that acts back upon and directs the flow of human affairs. Adam Smith called it the hidden hand of the market. Marx calls it the law of value. What is the law of value? It is the impersonal blind forces of the economy exerting their influence upon society. It is unique to a society in which the dominant form of labor is production for market exchange. The relations between people become value relations between commodities, and these value relations become impersonal forces which have unexpected consequences for society. For instance, we get capital. People have always used tools and other resources in their labor. These are called means of production. In a capitalist economy, means of production become capital. Tools, machines, materials, and even workers are all commodities with values. This makes it possible to buy means of production in the market and to sell the products of those means of production for a profit. That is, a person can invest money in production merely for the sake of getting more money. The pursuit of value as an end in itself becomes the dominating force in society. This is what capital is, the expansion of value for its own sake, regardless of the social cost. Capital takes the form of a class that owns the means of production, and another that must produce the profit for capital. Capital is inherently asymmetrical, great poles of wealth and poverty spreading out from it in geographical and economic space. Capital is also self-negating. Although it represents an impersonal force above society dominating the worker, it also relies on the worker to create profit for it. There is a social antagonism at its root. This social antagonism leads to periodic crisis and constant instability. All of these radical implications, and many more, are part of Marx's theory of value. This video series will cover various topics in Marx's theory of value: the difference between use value, exchange value, and value, the relation of supply, demand, and price to value, abstract labor, exploitation, crisis, socially necessary labor time, and even what an understanding of value can tell us about changing the world. It is hoped that they can contribute to a better appreciation of the importance of value theory to radical movements today, as they seek ideas with which to articulate their demands and strategies.